You guys all know me, Robin Kolterman, and I have done a little research on the history of the Privy, and it's just kind of an interesting topic because it's not very well documented, our outhouses and stuff. So what you think you might know about it might not be what you did think you knew about it. To start off with, the Chinese, of course, were the first to invent anything and everything, and they invented a privy. Usually I do this talk and I have a PowerPoint so I can show you pictures and stuff, so this is going to be a little bit different. But if you can imagine, what they built, their privy, was a structure that was up some steps and it hung out over the pig pen and dropped down into the pig pen. And so the pigs ate whatever was there, and of course they used human and animal manure as fertilizers back then. Of course they didn't know they could and probably did spread diseases and things. So that was our first known privy. People have always wanted some privacy to do your business and stuff, so that comes to the first name we have for the privy comes from privacy. And of course the other name we always mention is what do we usually call this?
Outhouse.
The outhouse, because it was out away from the main house. Makes sense? That's how those names came around. There was also called I've got a picture here, Gardley Robe. Have you ever heard of that name? This was an outhouse which was built into the side of a castle. And did I bring it? Yep, here we go. It's just kind of a unique outhouse. Can you see the castle wall?
Oh, and that's where
And then they just took a small room that was like a closet. And so Gardley Robe is guard, to protect, and Gardley Robe is the name. Robe means clothes. So it just dropped down into the moat. So that was kind of like the Chinese ones there. Another type of outhouse or way to use the privy, in 1596, Sir John Harrington developed a device for Queen Elizabeth I that had a bowl that was covered with pitch and resin, and it took 7 gallons of water to flush his toilet. And it was noted that if there was a drought or not enough water, that up to 20 people could use this before it was flushed. Surprisingly, this didn't catch on. Why? I don't know. Didn't catch on in 1596. But we did come up with another name that we used for the outhouse or for the bathroom. What do you think it was?
Water closet?
No.
Oh.
Sir John Harrington is the one who invented this. So
Oh, the John.
the John,
Oh, sure.
you got it. That's another name for the outhouse. In the American colonies, they called their outhouse the necessary. So you'd say, I need to go to the necessary. That was a polite way. We use all kinds of names to describe something other than what you're actually doing there. You know. The typical outhouse was made of wood. Let's see here. See, like I said, I usually do this with a PowerPoint presentation. It was 4 by 6, usually, and made of wood, and so that it could be easily moved from one place to another, because once the pit filled up, you wanted to move it on. Let's see, where am I at here? Okay, well, let's go on and talk a little bit, go down this rabbit hole. I was talking about the flushed toilet. The 1775 Scottish inventor Alexander Cummings was granted the first patent for a flush toilet. His greatest invention was that S curve. You know, we keep the smell out. And then during World War II, the soldiers went over to France, and the newfangled flush toilet back then was invented, or wasn't invented, but it was improved by Thomas Crapper. So what name do you think came with? Yeah, Crapper's name became synonymous with his toilet. So why do you think we say bathroom and restroom? Bathroom is common. You'd put a bathtub in the room with the toilet. That makes sense. Restrooms is an American term in the 1900s when large department stores and other uptown businesses wanted to cater to their customers. So they would have a sitting room outside or next to the where the toilets were, and they offered lounge chairs and reading material. And I think what they really were trying to do is let their customers rest up in the stores before they would, so they could do some more shopping. But there is another term that has continued to this day, is restroom. So, okay, back to the outhouse then here. I said it was typically 3 by 4 foot rectangle, 7 feet high, usually built over a pit that was 3 to 6 feet deep. And when the pit was full, a new pit was dug, and the outhouse moved to carry it over. Now, we talked about the number of holes. This one, I'm going to talk about this one in a little bit here, but why do you think they had multiple holes in an outhouse?
A big family.
A big family? More than 2 people using it at one time?
I didn't think so.
No. You were supposed to alternate holes, so it filled up evenly. Okay, there's a reason. You can also see some pictures of outhouses that had sitting holes that were higher and some were lower. Those were for the children, and the hole was actually smaller for the children because it'd been known for children to fall in and actually die, because that's a deep pit down there.
God.
And one, if I had my PowerPoint, I could show you these pictures, but there was one that had a large hole, a small hole, and then a square hole. What do you think the square hole was used for? To empty the chamber pot into. Much easier, so you didn't have to try to get it down the round hole. Of course, there was smell involved with the outhouse, especially in the summer. Lime was something that could be sprinkled into the privy hole to cover that so the flies wouldn't come in, and also covering the hole like that one has. Like I said, I'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's talk about it now. This is a WPA outhouse, and there's some history of it there. But in the 30s, when Roosevelt was president, he was president in 1933 to when else? Does anybody know their history, when the date was? In the 30s anyway. So they were trying to put people back to work, and one of the things that they came up with was trying to replace all the old wooden outhouses with modern outhouses here. And you'll see that these are concrete. They're all concrete because if they had a wooden vault, they deteriorated very quickly. You will also notice with this that the concrete base of the toilet itself is in the corner. I don't know why, it was just made that way. And also with the T, and then you have the cross here. If you look on the outside, on both sides where that T goes out the wall, there are vent holes. So that was the venting of it. Some of these outhouses, you will see the vent go all the way up, but this one is made this way. I have a picture of, and not a very good one because I had to put it on my printer this morning, of them building the outhouses, and they were actually hand dig the holes, and I don't have that picture. Oh, here it is. Not a very good picture, but you can see they hand dug the hole. Everything was done by hand with these WPAs. Not a very good picture there. Then they would have built the structure, and they were all built identical, but they were trying to upgrade the hygiene for rural people. Of course, you know, in town outhouses were the first to be replaced. Also, since this was part of Roosevelt's program, another name for the outhouse was the Roosevelt or the White House. And also Eleanor Roosevelt was a big proponent of replacing old outhouses, so it could also be known as the Eleanor. So during the 30s, those were all different names of those. So talking about the indoor or the city outhouses, keep everything from blowing away here. Okay, so can you see this one? Their outhouses would have been in the alleyways. And the water pump is right next to the outhouse.
Okay.
That's not very good, but they didn't take very good care of them back there. Here's another one
Look at the laundry.
with the laundry out there. Yeah, that's what all the alleys were like. Now, one thing, notice this outhouse and these outhouses I showed you of the cities. What do you think something that is missing that you would always put with an outhouse? Always think of this
Toilet
together.
paper, catalogs.
Well, we haven't got to the toilet paper yet. So
Yep.
look at the door.
Oh.
What's missing?
A light.
The moon.
The moon.
The moon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there a moon on outhouses? You know, like I said earlier, the outhouse building itself was not very well documented, but what they were more concerned about was ventilation. The moon could have been for ventilation too if you had a hole cut out, but it is theorized that they didn't put moons or stars. Sometimes they say stars because that was for the Roman god Apollo, and the moon was for Venus. So men and women's restrooms. Now they didn't have men and women's bathrooms because that is something of our culture. Back then it was an outhouse. You didn't care. You just did your job and get away from it. So they think how the iconic outhouse with the moon in it came about was from the early 1900 movies, films. Because if you had an outhouse in a Western, they always had the moon carved into it. And so it kind of trickled down into our culture, just like that song, Tie a Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree. That was actually about someone coming home from prison, but we turned it into soldiers coming back from war, and now we have ribbons for all kinds of different things. So it trickled down into our culture, so that's why they think they had that. So yes, let's talk about toilet paper. Early on, toilet paper was all natural things. Leaves, you had to be careful getting the poison ones.
The almanac.
Yeah.
What?
Last year's almanac.
Last year's
Or
almanac,
Sears and Roebuck.
Sears and Roebuck, and those catalogs I thought is interesting. On the front that it would say, just write and we will send you a catalog. And how many people do you think just wanted the catalog so they could put it in the outhouse? But it didn't make good reading and stuff. Toilet paper, in 1857, Joseph Getty is credited with the first modern toilet paper. He packaged these in flat sheets, and he was so proud of his toilet paper that he watermarked his name on every sheet. And then I believe the first rolled toilet paper was the late 1800s. And then in 1935, Charmin, is it Charmin? Came about with, advertised their toilet paper that had no splinters.
Oh, good.
So I guess toilet paper was pretty rough before that.
My.
Okay.
And
Yeah, soft corn cobs. I heard they
yeah,
use those.
corn cobs, yeah. And you'll see there's a corn cob in here. The lore with that is you used 2 red cobs to begin with. Then you used a white one to see if you needed another red one. Okay, I don't know if that was actually done or not, but that was a soft way to do it.
That would sure be using them fast, though.
Using them up fast, yeah. Then your pit fills up too, but it decomposes there. So marketing for toilet paper was especially done to kids and women, because apparently women were susceptible to toilet paper injury. So that's why the splinters were very important there not to have. So, do we have any questions about the outhouse? Or do you know everything you want to know about it?
I have a question.
Yes, what is your question?
Did you tell them about your playhouse?
Well, if I had my slides,
PowerPoint.
I had a picture in there. I have, I keep bees. So I have a beehive next to my little cottage down to the, at the pond. And if you lift the lid, it's a pea hive. So I've got it set up so it runs down. It has a tube that runs down into the ground, and I can use it to pee in. So it's my pea hive. So that's a quick little tour of the outhouse and the privy. So thank you.
Thank you.